codes and standards. So last night I just briefly talked about this, and tonight we're going to open a few tabs and just talk a little bit more about it, because we still only have an extra half hour, not a full. So the NFPA, you should go to the NFPA and just if you type free access NFPA and make sure to make yourself a username, and then the codes are all of them are there and available for free. All the editions, they're just, you can't print them out, can't search them, but nonetheless they're free, so really handy. Code Finder, so the building code, first of all, is where most things begin. So if we're trying to find out which electrical code or fire code or otherwise standards for fire, and these are life safety, all come from the building code. And that's also available online from this, I believe it's from code ICC Safe in this case. It's free, and again, I think there's a situation of printing and whatnot, but the occupancy classification, so if it's a hotel, that's one kind of, let's see if we click here. You can see here there's B, so like a typical business group. Occupancy would be your average, like an office building. And I'm very broad in this, right? And certainly I wouldn't claim to be an expert in the building code itself. There's code consultants that join projects that really are help with that, and architects, especially in the building code side, whereas on the electrical side, we would be the, or say for instance in the NFPA 72 for fire alarm or something, these are our strengths, and it's a team effort for no matter, but we should all have this exposure. I think there is engineers shy away from opening the code sometimes, especially the building code, if they feel that that's somebody else's. But yeah, no, it's a total due diligence involved, which is meaning that the assumption that it is there is good enough. Just go look, and each time you go look, it becomes easier the next time. Like anything else, a precursor of information is like the next time it isn't the first time. So so I be institutional, so maybe for instance a prison, and so let's say if we clicked on that and we looked here, and it starts to talk about the kinds of them. So look, there's a nursing home, so that might be an I2 occupancy. And then there's, of course, could be occupancies within buildings. So see, going here just gives you a foundation of the main aspects of the building occupancy and use, as well as the type of construction and what that would be. The means of egress as well. So for lighting, so all the light levels that are required for exiting the building and where they are required. There's an electrical chapter in here as well. So the electrical chapter then pushes you around to the other chapters. And so this is the emergency and standby power system. And so this starts to tell you where you definitely have to have generators, for example, or backup power sources. And you can see the occupancy starts to mean something here. So if you're going to stamp the drawings, you need to be confident that you understand that we're applying the code correctly. But again, that's starting at the building code, and that can start to get you. There's I think earlier chapters here that starts out by saying which editions, and this is I just opened randomly the 2018 IBC. So depending on where you are, it might be a different year. So those years at the beginning of the code there, they all say which version of the fire code and electrical code, and then those jurisdictions locally could also decide to have exceptions or differences. But if you don't know you're trying to find like just broadly, and this isn't a bulletproof way by any means, as is with this disclaimer that they show us. But this is a really helpful way to just, we said the fire code, or the fire code, the fire signal NFPA 72 or fire alarm. This is just a really helpful tool to quickly get what might be most current, and now then you need to go start diving deeper. So I just note this as the code finder. Okay, and of the free access to NFPA 70, we will hopefully open this, which is the electrical code, a little later, but for right now, I'm going to save us from a bunny hole and continue back to the notes. I will increase this too. All right, so within the electrical code, there are the first 4 chapters apply to any installation. So it talks about wire and conduit and equipment and clearances and product listings and these kinds of things. If there's a need to use or want to use differently, so I say use, it's probably not the right term, but if you have a building that has a use case, such as, I gave the example last night of a technology room and said if you do that, you have to do the whole article because it makes it less flexible than the chapter 4. A different example would be if, say, for instance, the building code said, like in a high-rise building, you needed to have an emergency generator on site. And then also, the emergency lighting might have said you needed some sort of emergency power, and maybe that could have been battery powered or a difference. But the point being that it's a difference than what's in chapter 1 through 4. It's not there. So to have that generator, which something else is requiring you to have that generator, a different code maybe. In this case, the one I'm saying is, so chapter 7 would be where you'd need to go because there's 3 different articles in there, 700, 701, and 702. So you might hear somebody say, oh, the emergency generator, but that's the electrical teams know just to take that for face value and or not at face value and ask some more questions. So is it actually emergency as in a life safety, or is it illegally required, or is it an optional standby? And those articles in the code, then again, those vary from chapter 1 through 4. They're supplemental. And then there's tables and there's aspects for communication systems. The tables being where we're sizing and like conduit wire sizes, diameters, and filling the open diameters of conduit up to only say 40%, which articles of the code here tell you to do that. And then you can reference these. So let's see if I got anything else on. Okay, that was it on codes. And I just the same as I did last night. So this was NEC. I said acceptance testing. I talked about already a little bit above. We did talk about the building code, energy code. So it could be IECC or ASHRAE, or even maybe there's aspects of Energy Star that you're looking for product reasons or building reasons. NFPA 1 is one fire code. Then there's the International Fire Code, IFC. Those are kind of the 2 that are most prominent, or I will ignorantly say. And life safety being like NFPA 101, or may or may not be applicable in every state. But then there's aspects of life safety spread throughout. And then I noted here insurance. FM Global would be a prominent example. So if you're going to insure your building, like, or even during construction, you might want to have more pay for higher insurance because that's not the normal use case for your building. But anyways, all of those insurance companies have lots of documents that are white papers, sometimes white documents, the papers. They just basically summarize the requirements of the installation for various kinds of things like transformers or Even I believe there might be some aspects for PV arrays, and they're mostly with fire safety related forward thinking, but it goes beyond the installation. It also extends to the maintenance and that kind of upkeep. So presumably an insurer could find that they can't uphold a policy for specific reasons, or decide to drop a policy for reasons as well. Okay, I'll pause there if we have any questions about what I've looked around for code.